This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the CEO of Leading Edge Materials, the very busy Filip Kozlowski. Filip, how are you this morning?
Hi, Gerardo. Happy Friday. Yeah, I'm very good.
Happy Friday to you as well. I mentioned that you've been extremely busy. Let's get right into it. Two big pieces of news that I want to cover. The first is the proposed joint venture plan for an advanced anode materials business. This, of course, centers around the Woxna graphite plant. And then the second piece of news that I really want to dig into and get your take on is this surprise announcement by GM and General Electric to study the rare earth supply projects for electric vehicles in Europe. This is something that we've expected European battery and car makers to kind of lead and take charge for years, and it just hasn't developed at the speed that we thought it would happen. Out of nowhere, General Motors and General Electric decide that they're going to come into the region and throw their multi-billion-dollar balance sheets behind this. I have to say, Filip, and we've talked about this for a while, and I'm talking my own book now because I'm a supporter of the company. There's not a lot of rare earth projects to look at in Sweden or Europe if GE and GM are really looking. Am I wrong?
No, and it's a fantastic summary, Jar. I don't know what to say myself, but look, it's one of these weeks we have a confluence of positive news for both our main projects in Sweden. It's quite a nice note to end the week on. But let's start with the Woxna graphite project, and this is something that we've worked on for a while, so it's very pleasing to come out and announce the plans that we have for that. So what we're essentially doing is we have this graphite mine, and we're looking to upgrade that material into an anode material. We've done a lot of work on upgrading that graphite material to your traditional coated spherical purified graphite material. As part of looking at various coating technologies, we came in touch with this Australian company called Sicona Battery Technologies and started looking with them, and we've exchanged material with them. They've coated that material. We've tested that material in cells, and it performed very well. So that was the starting point of our discussions, and then eventually one thing led to another, and the core competency and the know-how and the IP of Sicona is not on the coating side; it's really on the silicon composite side. So the next generation of battery materials, and that got us intrigued because that's something that we haven't had the capacity to look at yet. But obviously looking forward into the future, that's where we want to be. Higher storage capacity, higher selling price, more importantly for our shareholders. So we started discussing that, and luckily they were looking for partners around the world to establish manufacturing facilities, leveraging their IP and know-how, and that was pretty much a perfect match. So we worked on that, hashing out the non-binding terms of this MOU, heads of agreement. And I guess the key points that are worth considering is that there's a clear path to how to execute on this joint venture. So how it's envisioned once it becomes incorporated is that we do a 500 tons per annum stage one commercial demonstration plant. So you and me, we've talked about the demonstration plant, the pilot plant we want to do. This is something much bigger. So 500 tons per year is a significant amount of material. We're looking to go to that scale to produce significant amounts of material because we're now in Europe, we're looking at more than a terawatt, so 1,000 gigawatt hours of planned battery production capacity in Europe within the next 5-10 years. That roughly equals to 1 million tons of anode material. Where is that going to come from? So we need more material to qualify with our customers. And then the other thing, which is beneficial for the cooperation with Sicona in this 50-50 joint venture, is that they worked a lot on how to do the composite anode material. So not just looking at natural graphite and silicon, they work on taking natural graphite and synthetic graphite, putting that together and putting it together with silicon. And that gives us an opportunity to actually target higher volumes than what we have in the PEA for Woxna, where we were limited by our production capacity at existing processing plants, because we can essentially start looking at taking in synthetic graphite. All of this makes it a bigger business, and when you start looking down the road on the silicon composite side of things, yeah, that is a much more valuable material. So it gives us a higher selling point. So we have a potential, if this joint venture goes forward, for higher volumes of material coming out of that joint venture at higher selling prices. And when you talk about the relevance for us as a small producer in Europe, but now having the IP and know-how for the next generation materials, it makes us more relevant when we engage in discussions with the potential customers, so the various battery factories in Sweden and Germany.
It's interesting to me, Filip, that if this joint venture proceeds as envisioned, there is an agreement to sell all of the graphite concentrate production from Woxna at an all-in cost basis plus a 30% margin. So you're essentially guaranteeing yourself that margin. It's built into the agreement, again, assuming that things move forward the way you plan, correct?
Yes, correct. And to note, there's a cap on that, compared with the relevant pricing benchmark. But it makes it a very healthy business on the graphite mine side, which we own 100% of, and we own 50% of the joint venture, which is a bigger business. So it makes a lot of sense. And when you talk about graphite pricing lately, we've seen very positive trends in terms of how graphite plate pricing is moving, especially in Europe. And this all comes back to what all of your listeners are reading about every day: the global power crunch, the supply chain issues. Look at any refined material out of China. They don't have the electricity to power all the refinement plants, whether it's magnesium, whether it's silicon, or whether it's graphite. All of these materials are going up in price, and again, making a very strong argument for a localized supply chain, where that was what Sicona identified with us. And in addition, one of the reasons that Sicona were really interested in talking with us was the thermal purification process, seeing how that material performed much better than any other material that they tested in their silicon composite. So yeah, all things align, and very much looking forward to the next steps on working on that.
Excellent. That's Woxna. Congratulations. I know a lot of hard work went into that. I think, wrote a check for Woxna way back in, I want to say 2009 or 2010. So this is, absolutely a milestone moment, and hopefully everything proceeds as planned. Let's talk GM. Let's talk General Electric. Of course, you have the only, world-class rare earth project there in Sweden. In Europe, GM and GE now are looking to make a significant inroad to developing their own rare earth supply chain. They want magnets, they want copper, they want steel, and they want access. And we know that it's going to be an interesting road to get that access because there's not a lot of options and you have to be on the radar.
Oh, and I think when we exchanged emails around the Sicona news on that announcement, I said I was so pleased to announce this news, and then comes this news on Rashar out of the blue, and I'm as excited about that. And look, it's not a new theme. Everyone knows this. There's a dependency on China for the magnet rare earth, so the heavy and the light rare earth elements, and everyone's been discussing this for the last 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And what can we do about it? And, we as a company, we have material. We identified that there's demand for it, and they see that there's a potential supply crunch on that material. But there hasn't really materialized any activity from the downstream. Essentially, they need to get active in supporting the development of the upstream. And there's been a lot of discussions in Europe over the last 10, 15 years, also within the European Raw Materials Alliance context over the last 12 months. What can we do to support the upstream? And here come, two major blue chip OEMs out of the US, and specifically mention North America. They want to establish secure, sustainable, resilient local supply chains, but not only in North America, but also in Europe. General Motors, they talk about the electric motors for their cars. General Electric, obviously looking at the magnets for their wind turbine generators. And it's fantastic news. And I'm very happy to see this commitment from the downstream, because that's where the initiative needs to come from, to validate the concept of we need to get actively involved in supply chains, we need to solve this problem, and eventually putting their money behind it. So fantastic news, and I'm hoping this makes a few rings on the water here in Europe as well.
Well, the share price has responded in volume and appreciation. I think, Leading Edge is significantly undervalued just with Loxna. If you add Nora Shar, it's quite the opportunity. It's been that way for quite a bit, if we're going to be frank. But I think now with the momentum overall in the space and it getting very specific to the region where your projects happen to be, on top of the fact that you now have this joint venture announcement that you just published, a lot of exciting news. Thank you so much, Filip. Anything else to add to that?
No, it's a perfect storm. You have the growing demand, you have the supply crunch, and you have the political tailwind. So yeah, very happy environment to work in.
Excellent. Filip, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Gerardo. Have a nice weekend.
You as well.